Well, let's find out what the policies actually are, because I'm not clear what they are in Ireland for the airlines that are here. Let's bring in Eoghan Corry, who is the editor of travelextra.ie. So what is standard here in Ireland, Eoghan?
Good afternoon. Yeah, the magic number is 17 inches. The seats are 17-inch wide. It's the same for Aer Lingus and Ryanair. There is none of the major airlines, including Aer Lingus and Ryanair, 80% of us fly with them, are introducing more seats or reducing the legroom. They're both quite generous. They give about 32 inches. Some charter airlines give about 28 inches. But the width is what we're talking about here. And it has been 17 inches. It's not really defined by the airlines. It's defined by the aircraft manufacturers. The two standards that we fly with are the Airbus A320 family with Aer Lingus and the Boeing 737 family with Ryanair. 6 across, 1 aisle in the middle, and it generally is 17 inches. Armrest brings that down a little bit. And the big question is, people are getting wider. I mean, the evidence from the United States is that obesity is reaching something like 40% in some of the states, and Europe is probably heading the same direction. It is creating extra problems. Southwest had this policy of giving a free second seat to somebody who was obese. They were doing that really to stop other passengers complaining, but if they were looking at the revenue lost in that, if you're giving so many free seats away, it changes the economics of your flight.
But I'm just wondering how this would work now in practice, Eoghan. I mean, I presume they are assuming and encouraging people to be proactive. If you think you're going to need a second seat, book a second seat. But if that doesn't happen, if somebody doesn't book a second seat and then they arrive at the check-in desk and the person behind the check-in desk thinks, one seat isn't going to be enough here. I mean, what do? Do they put them on a set of scales? Do they take out the measuring tape and measure their waist? Or, who gets to decide?
Yeah, there is no facilities. I mean, we're famous for weighing bags here, and there's a lot of angst about the extra kilo that a bag may weigh, but there are no facilities for weighing passengers. There is no precedent for it. There's no legislation for it, and the consumer rights people would probably be very excited about it if someone tried to introduce it, except in one case, and this is sort of an oddity, if the aircraft is very small and you have Aran Islands flights to the Aran Islands, but that's purely to place people of a certain weight strategically through the cabin so it doesn't destabilise a small aircraft in high winds. You can be weighed on before you get on a little turboprop. There's nothing like that happening at any large airport in Europe or any major airline in Europe. Interesting, when it was proposed by Finnair about a year ago. I do tend to think it's something that generates more, it's designed to generate a few headlines. It's put up as an idea by somebody and it goes away again. Even Michael O'Leary, and he's famous for generating headlines, hasn't been calling for people to be weighed or to pay double for 2 seats when they're overweight.
I'm looking at a text here from a listener. Ryanair make it very difficult for anyone slightly overweight. You have to ask for an extension for the seatbelt in front of all the people around you. And that is difficult for people. And I've seen that happen. And you can see that people feel self-conscious and feel embarrassed by that on occasion.
Seatbelts is where the first point of contact is on obesity. I do think we are seeing an increase in the number of seatbelt extensions being asked for, and it does raise question on aircraft policy. How many seatbelt extensions do you need? It's very, very uncomfortable, by the way, to be sitting beside someone whose belly spills on top of you. It's happened to me on a few occasions, never in Europe. But you can, at Los Angeles to New York flight, I had somebody's belly on my lap for the entire flight. You can see how not so much the people who have obesity for whatever reason, I'm not making any judgment here because we do know it's hereditary and sometimes other conditions, but it is uncomfortable for the surrounding passengers. I think that's the key to what Southwest are looking at here.
So do you think they're right then? Do you think people should be obliged going forward to just buy that second seat and perhaps put off the flight if they haven't bought that second seat or if that second seat isn't available?
Yes, I think they're certainly within their rights when there is an imposition on the other passengers in that row. I do think that there is a solution here. You're not going to get 6 seats across and much wider than 17 inches without changing the entire way you design the aircraft. But certainly, I think when America is ahead of Europe in the obesity stakes here, there is probably a case for the airlines that are dealing with large numbers of obese passengers, increasing numbers of obese passengers, to introduce 5 across and 4 across for different for particular routes. You also get a wider seat in business class, so you don't have to buy the second seat, and sometimes business class seats are not that more expensive.
Well, a lot of the time they are.
Well, particularly the Americans use loyalty schemes to get them. But there are different ways of approaching this, but certainly Southwest were regarded as generous in giving away a free second seat. I do know for many years some very large people have been buying second seats anyway and paying the full price for it.
Yeah.
Even at transatlantic, it's something that people do when they're overweight.
Yeah, I'm just looking at texts, and we have had so many texts on this item so far. My son is over 6'6". He pays extra for an additional legroom seat to accommodate him. Another person saying, what's the difference between your bag being over by 5 kilo or your body weight being over by 50 kilo? I can see the airlines setting some sort of weight limit for people the same as a bag limit, and you pay for your extra kilos. But the question is, what happens if you haven't done that? Do you expect people to be weighed at the airline? Realistically,
I don't think we're at a point where people are going to start offering free wider seats. Yes, I do think that some Southwest pushing out on this, and some of the other airlines, should they do it, will raise the question, raise the debate. And there are people who can't fly. I mean, there are people who have just given up the notion of flying because of the hassle. Because I've sort of been very selfish and said it's uncomfortable for the passengers around, but it's also very uncomfortable for the passenger who's flying with extra weight. And at some stage, some airline will come up with some incentive and say, fly with us because we can handle you.